on the pitch, and you wanted to be every single time. I guess that's the difference between a lot of players. A lot of players go onto the pitch thinking, you know what, I'm going to be the best player, but there's some players that can sort of walk around with that swagger. So yeah, Rooney was one. I got to play with the likes of James Milner coming through the younger age as well. Scott Carson, and the likes of David Bentley as well. A phenomenal talent in years. But there were some good players, really, really good players.
Oh, really good. And like you say, that's his stage as well of Newcastle United winning the under-17 academy. I know when you did our interview in our Facebook group, like you said, that was one of your best memory at Newcastle. That must have been really good as well.
Oh, I mean, that season as a whole was just a triumph, really. I mean, the lads that we had in our team were just phenomenal. We just all knew our roles. We weren't particularly probably the best bunch of talent that come through from Newcastle, but we just knew each other's game inside out. And so the likes of Martin Britton, who came through, absolute fantastic technician with the ball at his feet, could whip a ball in on a sixpence. We had the likes of Lewis Guy and Calvin McCongo, Zolo up front, who they were just a phenomenal duo. Terry McDermott's son Neil. James Beaumont, Alan O'Brien, who came through into the first team for a few runs. I mean, he was just rapido, absolutely rapid. And then we had the likes of Chris Gate, Stephen Taylor, and Chris Carr at the back. And then we had Adam Collin in goal. I mean, I remember the team completely to this day. We were just phenomenal that season, and it all ended up with us playing Man United in the final. I missed the first leg because I was still at the European Championships with England, but the lads did a tremendous job down at Old Trafford. Won 3-2, and then we had the return leg at St James's, and we won 2-0 on the night. So it was just a phenomenal moment for me personally, but the team and obviously Alan Irvine, who had us for that season. Absolutely great coach. It was just a proud moment.
No, definitely. I think you look now and you see the results coming in for the under reserve, like the under 23s and lower level. It seems to be getting beat nearly every week. But as you see, back then it was really solid team. And I mean, I was a football manager and I used to run the first team, the reserves, under 18s. I used to know all the players literally off by heart, I think. But like you say, it just seems to be a little bit different now. Where back then it was so strong, the academy, and like you say, we were pushing on and taking on them teams like Man United, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. I mean, the season after that, we beat Man United 7-3 down at Carrington. We had some phenomenal talent in their academy. It was just that could we break through? Some did. You know, it's so difficult in a team like Newcastle where they were back then to actually make that step and break through. I guess what Academy's got now is they've got a solid foundation now, a good structure. It seems to me like they've got a really good environment, obviously with Steve Harper there and Ben Dawson and stuff like that. I think the Academy, 2 or 3 years, you'll see a lot more people start to progress, especially with a sort of a forward-thinking coach like Eddie Howe as well, and the backroom staff that he's got. I mean, they'll take a vested interest in it, and I can only see the Academy producing some really, really good talent in the future.
No, it should be really good. And like you say, you mentioned the highlight there was beating Man United 5-2 over the 2 legs. But apart of that, as you mentioned, the 2-0 win at St James's Park. I mean, just describe that night and obviously that feeling just playing at St James's Park and the crowd as well.
It's everything really. It's it's the car journey up to the ground. It's getting into the dressing room. It's going out just to check the pitch to see what boots you're going to wear that night. It's coming back in, seeing your kit laid out, and you're sitting in places where the likes of Gary Speed have sat, and Alan Shearer, and it's just a huge emotional moment. And then obviously when you're waiting in the tunnel to go out, and then it wasn't a huge crowd, but for an under-17 game, it was quite substantial for us, everybody in the East Stand. It's just phenomenal. It's everything you dream of. It's everything you want when you step onto a football pitch, and obviously being the team that you support, it just stays with you. Do you know what I mean? I understand when people saying, I know how fans say, oh, get into the concourse, and I get up to the thing, I see the pitch for the first time, and it's like, what? But actually going and running out onto the pitch to play football, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I always tell his friends, like, say, I had the one trial and I hit the post of the Gallagher end, and just like say it stays with the rest of my life. Just that memory of just playing that pitch and pinching a bit of grass in front of my back pocket, and it's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, it's just an amazing place. I mean, we've got the best fans in the world, haven't we? It's just a crazy place to play football. Absolutely unbelievable.
Definitely. And at this stage, like you say, you're playing for England and doing well at Newcastle. I mean, what was going through your mind, and obviously your future of kind of where could this actually lead to now?
Positive. It was really positive. So doing really well with England. We just won the Academy League, like you say. But for me, in my career, changing point was Alan Irvine leaving. Alan Irvine, after that season, left to go to Everton to be David Moyes'. He went to be assistant manager there. And then that meant a change of personnel in the academy with Kenny Wharton and Peter Beardsley. And for whatever reason, that's when sort of my development or my forward trajectory just completely halted.
Yeah, I mean, up to that stage, was there any point in kind of training around the first team, getting called up in the training sessions? And was there any senior players that really stood out and kind of looked after the younger players in and around the place?
Absolutely, yeah. So we get called in quite a little bit just to play with the reserves with Tommy Craig, and if the first team was short, just to go over and be an extra body. And yeah, it was brilliant in that respect. Bobby Robson was the manager at the time, God rest his soul, absolute unbelievable. I mean, he didn't really have to speak. He just, he didn't have to say anything. He could just look at you, and then you knew what you needed to do. You were inspired, and you went and did it. But players that stood out for me, growing up, there were some well-known players. So the likes of Gary Speed and Craig Bellamy would take a vested interest in the younger generation. Speedo will come over and train with us, and Bellamy will come over and say, look, you've got to express yourself, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, work hard, and make sure you're doing it on a daily basis. So them were two probably people that stood out who were more well known. But there was other lads in and around that time who, where it was a sort of a period of turmoil for me, the likes of Joe Kendrick and Stephen Brennan in the youth team. They sort of took me under my wing for that period before I left the club. But so to play around the first teamers and watch what they do, and their ability, and just how quick thinking they were, it was phenomenal. And again, just memories that you keep with you.
Oh, but I mean, you mentioned Tommy Craig. I know we had Colin McManaman on a few weeks ago, and he just said, you look at coaches now, and that was Tommy Craig 10 years ago, and he said he was just miles ahead of his time, and was
absolutely
enjoy his sessions as well.
Yeah, I loved Tommy's sessions. Tommy was no nonsense. Had a really attention to detail. He wanted things done properly, and if you started off a pass and drill poorly, it was stopped, and you brought it back, and it was like get that pass away, get it right. I really enjoyed Tommy and the way Tommy ran the reserves and the team. He was just ahead of his time.
Class. I know reading on I think it was the Chronicle as well, if obviously things changed at the club for yourself a little bit sour, and like you say, I was reading 1 minute you were playing for England on top of the world, you were coming back and treated with no respect on return, which is it's crazy when you think about it. I mean, like you say, you're told 1 minute you're a top player and getting called in as a joke and stuff like that. I mean, what was going through your head at the time, and obviously just what was going on around the
place? It's really hard to explain, because I was a 17-year-old lad, just had that great season away with England and coming back. I mean, you'll speak to people. I'm not the most outgoing of lads. I wasn't a nuisance. I got my head down. I grafted, and that's all I ever did at Newcastle. So, for whatever reason, there was an issue there. That issue got intensified over a period of 2 or 3 months, to the point where I was coming back from international games, and then there was like under 15 games that were getting organised for me to play with 14-year-olds, and when I was 17-year-old at the time, and I'm just thinking, I couldn't really compute. I was so young, I couldn't compute what was sort of going on, and it was happening to a few of the lads, and then the rest of the lads would finish training, they would go home, say 1 o'clock, and I had to stay behind for another couple of hours and stuff like that to put all the goals away. But it was always like me, and it was always a couple of others, and I just didn't understand it. I couldn't process it in my mind what was sort of going on, and it really got to the point where, I just switched off. I switched off from my family. I switched off from football. That season, I played over 1,000 minutes for England by Christmas, and I played 42 minutes for Newcastle. So I mean, the swing in roundabouts was just monstrous, and it just got to the point where my dad came into my room one day and said, "Look, what's going on?" I said, "I don't want to play football anymore. That's it. I'm done with it. Like, sign me up to university. I want to go to uni. That's it. I'm done." And I think for a 17-year-old to say that the year that he had prior to that, it was just a really, really sad situation, to be honest. And it took a lot out of me. A couple of other lads who left the club at the same time, and probably had a toll on the family as well. So yeah, it was a difficult period for a 17-year-old lad. Really, really difficult.
Oh, I can imagine, like you say, that obviously then a tribunal comes as well, and yourself and teammates having to leave the club. I mean, it must be hard at the time leaving the club, like you say, that you don't want to play for, but obviously just a relief for yourself to get out there and see what the next steps are as well, though, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go through the tribunal and in front of a panel, and that was over like 2 days. I mean, that was difficult in itself, to be face to face with, officials from the club, and it nearly didn't go ahead, to be honest, really, because myself and the other and the other fella that was involved were took into a room 5 minutes before it started. We were offered new 5-year deals, and for it to go away, but it just got too far. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't about a 5-year deal and staying at the club. They could have done anything with me then. Do you know what I mean? I could have just been put to one side. It was about, I can't play football in this environment. I can't go back to that environment anymore. And ultimately, the decision was made that we weren't successful to get out, and then that's when, luckily, Nottingham Forest, came in and took myself and James on a transfer. One of the stipulations was that I wasn't allowed to sign for a Premier League club, and I wasn't allowed to sign for anybody abroad or anything like that. That was the stipulation at the time. So, so the next best thing was look at the sort of the Championship, and Nottingham Forest had a young team. They had really good young players in that squad. Paul Hart was in charge, who had a good record with young players, and it just got to the playoffs. So it was it sort of ticked all the boxes for the next stage of the development, really.
Yeah, I just still can't believe it. You said there that you couldn't sign for another Premier League. It's like you're getting punished, but it's crazy. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it was one of the stipulations. So that it was what it was. But at the end of the day, I had to get out of the club. I had to try and salvage something that was going on at the time. Did it have an effect on me moving forward in my? Yeah, probably it probably did. I don't think I got the best out of myself from that moment, to be honest.
No, definitely. And just before we get the next steps of your career as well, like you say, we are going to come back to a quick fire round about your time at Newcastle at the end as well. Lots of people are watching. I really appreciate your support as always. Any comments, get them in. Any questions as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button as well. But yeah, getting on to the next steps. And you say the move to Nottingham Forest, and it's a huge club in 2003. And you make a debut, playing a decent amount of games in that at a very good level of the Championship. I mean, how did that feel being professional footballer and playing for a club like Nottingham Forest?
Fantastic. I mean, what a history at Nottingham Forest. I signed there, and I actually, for the first 2 months, I was really homesick because I'd never been away from home. I was actually getting injections from the doctor to keep my weight up because I I don't know what it was. It was like an anxiety, or I was being sick quite often. I was getting injections for the doctor to try and keep weight on. So I got through that first couple of months, got settled. Luckily, James, who was involved with the tribunal, he signed for Nottingham Forest at the same time as well. So we both joined that club. So we had each other as sort of as backup. First couple of months, great. Knew a few players there from the England setup, and trained really well. Playing in the reserves and just in and around the first team, they both sort of trained together. And then after 3 months, the team sheet used to go up in the first team dressing room. It used to go up in the reserve team. And it went up and my name was on the bottom. I was like, gee, God, that one quick, man. I didn't really expect it. But so at 18-year-old, I was on the bench, first squad number 32. Remember it like it was yesterday. No pressure on me whatsoever to make me debut because the lads were 5-0 up when I went on. So I went on in the 64th minute. Harty shouted me back, and I always remember my first touch. The keeper actually threw a thunderbolt. It was Paul Gerrard who was in goal, straight to me left foot in the middle of midfield. Just threw it out, and it was a perfect touch. And then I set Matty Louis-Jean away on the right wing. Can remember it like it was yesterday, and that was it. Them sort of moments you just don't forget. We ended up winning 6-0. It was just like a really perfect debut for me. It was just no pressure whatsoever. Did really well. But I just sort of got dipped in and out in that first season. I played round about the September, and then I didn't come back into the team until Boxing Day. I got a start on Boxing Day against West Ham. So that was like me full debut from the start of the game. But Championship was a great level of football. It's really quick. Had to adapt really quick to that sort of level of football. Wasn't really the strongest. I was still quite slight, so I needed to sort of work on on building my body up to cope with the Championship. But just loved everything about it. Managed to play quite a few games in the Championship, but then we got relegated to League One. Sort of it all went downhill, to be honest, because we had about 6 different managers in about 4 years. Sort of the funding got pulled, and it just wasn't what you would have expected from a Nottingham Forest team. It was just up and down. But I played alongside Perchino when I was there, so we played quite a few games together. So just a great moment, great time. But I don't think Nottingham Forest, got the best of me. Unfortunately, I sort of my mind had already not switched off, but there was something missing when I left Newcastle. I never really could put my hand on it.
I think it must have been hard. I know you mentioned the managers, and I think the ones I always can't remember at that time was obviously Hart, Kinnear, Megson, Calderwood, and it must be hard where you're impressing one manager, thinking, right, I'm getting in his plans. He's now gone. You're then got to do it all again, and it's hard to keep that going, isn't it? At some point.
It is. So I got under the team under Harty, and then Joe Kinnear came in, managed to get it in the team with Joe Kinnear, then came out when he obviously got sacked. Then Gary Megson came in again, came back into the team, played quite a few games, and then he got sacked. And then Calderwood came in, but unfortunately, I got injured that year when Calderwood came in, and then they were doing really well when sort of I got fit again, and that's when I was loaned out to sort of Port Vale, just to try and get some games under my belt.
So, like you say, after leaving Nottingham Forest and the loan, obviously to Port Vale, play for the likes of Middleton Town, promotion of Eastwood Town as well, and a few games at Shildon. But obviously during this time was obviously, like you say, coping with some injuries. The turn of obviously the Newcastle time and the addiction as well. Was it kind of a hard time to go through? Obviously being that professional footballer as well.
Yeah. So to be fair, I knew it was over when I left Forest. I went to Port Vale, played about 20, 25 games there. got offered a contract, but nothing that I could really survive on. So
Yeah.
the option for me was, my body was sort of failing me as well. I was getting loads of niggly injuries, and that could have been one of the multiple things. That could have been in my mind. That could have been, I just sort of really got disillusioned with football. It's quite sad, really. But I knew at that point that sort of the professional game was finished, and I had to do something else. I had to, as I say, get a job and then play semi professional football, and them times at Ilkeston and Eastwood were probably some of the happiest times I've had in football, to be honest, when I came into the non-league. Ilkeston was a good experience for me, and I got a good 46 games under my belt that season and scored quite a few goals. And then I transferred to Eastwood, who were Ilkeston's rivals, and we managed to win the Unibond Prem, get up into the Conference North. We had a massive run to the third round of the FA Cup. We had a cracking team, to be fair. And, I probably played some of my best football at that time as well. But ultimately in the background was the start of a really heavy addiction. I've always liked to sort of gamble. And I guess with everything that was going on and with the trauma that I'd sort of suffered from a young age with the football, it was really starting to act out with it. And I guess for me and a lot of people who have addiction problems is, you need something to escape to. And for me at that point, it was gambling. I could just be out of reality and into this whole new world where I didn't have to worry about my internal emotions. I didn't have to think about things. I could go into a bookies at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it would be 8 o'clock at night before I knew it. Do you know what I mean? It was just in my own other world. And that sort of intensified. Obviously wasn't earning the amount of money that I was earning when I was playing. And, you just get deeper and deeper and deeper. So ultimately that led me to Tony Adams' Sport and Chance Clinic down south. I had to do a residential down there, and it was probably the best thing I could ever do. It saved my life, to be honest, really. I mean, 2 suicide attempts, and something needed to change, and that was sort of the start of my recovery journey. It wasn't the end of it. It was the start. And I'm from the gambling. I'm coming up to 7 years clean now without a bet. So it's I've had to put the work in, but it's been worth it. I think it's everything that comes with it, really. It's it's the disruption that you cause to your family. It's the people you like. It's the manipulation. It's the you do these things to the people that you love, and the disease of addiction it's the only disease that tells you that you've got nothing wrong with you. Do you know what I mean? It's that's unfortunately what it is. You're just imprisoned in it, and a lot of people say to you, "Why don't you just stop?" And it's the hardest thing to explain. But yeah, it's everything else that comes with it. It's the relationships that are destroyed. It's the just the environment you could create for the people that really love. So I'm quite grateful and thankful to the fact that I've got a really loving partner who's stuck by me for the past 12 years. I've got a great daughter who it's her birthday tomorrow. She's 10 tomorrow. But I think the best thing for me is that I can be present now. I was always there physically, but I just mentally I just wasn't there. I couldn't really celebrate anything with her. So yeah, it's been tough, but it manifested to cocaine and alcohol as well, really. But I'm happy to say that I'm coming up to 3 years without a drink and without a drug as well. So it's been a long process, and it's been a battle to probably go back and deal with what happened when I was quite young. But now that I've got that sort of sorted in my own mind, and thanks to the helps of Tony Adams Sport and Chance Clinic, the counsellors and the support network that I've had around me, I'm probably the most peaceful I've been for a long time.
No, it's really good. Like you say, I mean, I did read the piece, I think it was Daily Mail back in 2019 that you did, and like you say, you shared a lot of information. Obviously, on you call it the lost career, gambling, suicide attempt, but I think that's very brave to come on, like you say, and tonight as well, mentioning them type of things. But like you say, now we became friends on Facebook. Obviously, you did the interview on our Facebook group, and I'm seeing your updates on Facebook. Obviously, you love for the grassroots game, out running, like you say, your family, your daughter, and to me, it looks like you say that it's back on track, and you just like you say, you're loving life again, isn't it? And it's amazing to see.
Absolutely, and you know, I've lost a lot of years to probably the past and to the addiction. So, I guess my way of making amends is one to be clean, sober, you know, and gamble free, but you know, give back to the people that I should be giving back to. So I'm manager of the Heriton Girls under 10s, my daughter's football team. I love grassroots football. I'd do absolutely anything for it. I just love the whole parents and the kids and, you know, everybody trying to improve. And, you know, I'm trying to create an environment where, you know, the girls can just grow, not only on the football pitch, but, you know, as people as well. You know, that's really important to me. But yeah, I've got a lot of things going on. So I've got a great network of guys who, you know, have suffered gambling harm, you know, in addiction. We're all coming together running the Edinburgh Marathon next year. Training's going well. So we just trying to fill that time with good, positive experiences. And like I say, it's really given me a really peaceful part of my life that I think is going to come up. And, you know, I think I've just got to hold on to it and keep myself busy and, you know, just grasp it with both hands and keep giving back.
No, definitely. I mean, it's really interesting because obviously we all know what's going on with Tonali and Newcastle. Obviously, the amount of support that he'll be getting now, obviously, in these days. I mean, what's your kind of thoughts on the Tonali situation?
Yeah, so I mean, one, I've got sympathy for the addiction, for the disease, and I guess only an addict and knows what it's like and really sympathise to that sort of level. Yeah, I've got my own take on it. Do I think he needs to be held accountable? Well, obviously, yes, to a point. You've got to be held accountable. Should he be banned from training and Newcastle? For me, no. I mean, he probably needs that connection with the first team and the players and Eddie Howe, and you know, they're his family now. He's in a different country. I mean, to not give him the benefit of that connection with the team and the lads, I just think would be poor taste. I think they did that wrong with Ivan Toney as well. Should be banned from football games? Yeah, maybe, yeah, but I don't think he should. I don't think he should get a ban from seeing his team and stuff like that. That's one of the things that's going to get him through this next, you know, period of his career. He obviously needs all the support he can get, and hopefully he gets that from the club, which I know he will get. But hopefully he gets that from the FA, you know, his agent and his family members around him. But I guess time will tell. But it seems to be becoming a lot more common. You know, gambling has a massive impact on sport anyway, even if it's advertising or, you know, it's just around all over the place. And, you know, not everybody's an addict. A lot of people like to gamble. A lot of people like to put a bet onto the football. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done in that space. But yeah, I can sympathise with Sandro and you know, obviously from myself and probably all of the supporters, we just wish him the best, and hopefully he gets through this period and gets himself well and starts producing on the pitch when he can.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously time's moved a lot now, but I know we've had a lot of players that's done the former player interviews in the group who kind of said when they left Newcastle as young players, there was just no support. A lot of people just said, players said, well, all I was thinking of is I'm going to play for Newcastle United, and when that day comes, I'm getting released. There was no other option. And I mean, openly, a couple of people even mentioned to us about suicide, like you say, because they didn't know that next step. They weren't ready for jobs. They weren't ready for this. Do you think that's now
Absolutely.
kind of changing clubs where they've got that extra support, and that's what the young players now need?
Yeah, I think that's starting to get better. I don't think it's 100% yet, but you know, there is clear pathways now at clubs throughout, you know, the leagues, Premier League down to League Two and hopefully beyond that. But there is certain things that are put in place now for the lads to, you know, you do need to have something as a backup as a career.
Yeah.
I've just seen that we've signed somebody as head of psychology as well, haven't we, in the last couple of days? Yeah. So I guess especially from a Newcastle point of view, you know, we take that very, very seriously now. And, you know, I'm proud of the club that, you know, not only are we given the best opportunity for the players and the environment within the first team and the academy, but we're thinking about, you know, their later careers or, you know, the mental welfare as well. And I mean, that can only reap rewards on the performance of the club going forward. So I'm pretty proud for Newcastle for doing that. But yeah, I think it's improving, but we've still got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah. And looking back now, what advice would you give for a young Ross Gardner, 16, 17, at a Premier League club coming through, obviously playing well, playing for England possibly as well? What advice would you give to that player now?
Just get your head down, work hard, take your opportunities, you know, stand out from the crowd, but in a good way. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the advice I would give to somebody. You know, keep really focused on that dream. You know, if it doesn't work out, you can have that dream somewhere else. That's what it's all about. But just hard work and dedication. That's all you can do. Give yourself the best possible chance of coming through.
Excellent. And getting back to Newcastle now, and obviously a little quick fire question that we ask every player that comes on as well. And number one, who would be the best coach that you worked under at Newcastle United and why?
Oh God, I've had so many good coaches. John Carver was the first one that when I first came to Centre Excellence, he was in charge of the Centre Excellence. I had Vince Hutton, George Scott, George Shipley, Rob Atkin, Alan Irvine. I obviously had Peter Beasley and Kenny, Tommy Craig. It has to be Alan Irvine for me. I mean, a lot of people have different views on Alan. He was a bit of a taskmaster. He was quite strict, but you know, I like that strictness. I liked Alan for, you know, how honest he was with you. I mean, if you were shite, you were shite, and you knew about it, and you had to pull your finger out. But he also had that other side where he would pull you to one side and say, you know, that was brilliant. So I appreciated both sides of what Alan Irvine did. So yeah, it would be Alan for me.
Excellent. And number two, who would be the best player that you trained or played with in your age group when coming through the ranks at Newcastle, and why?
Coming through the ranks, best player. Ooh. I mean, if it was the under-17s at the time, I love Britt. I love Martin Britton. I love the way. I just loved his technique. He was just a beautiful footballer to watch. I mean, once he got that ball out of his feet and he was lining up to get that cross in, it was just lovely to watch. So I'd have to say Martin Britton.
Excellent. In the time that experience that you had with the first team, like who would that player that you always looked up to and who just fought in training? Wow, what a player!
Gary Speed, 100%. I mean, he was just phenomenal. I mean, what a guy as well. Do you know, like to have a chat with? If he was in the gym and you could just speak to, he was just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I just love him to pieces. Speedo, 100%.
Excellent. And finally, your best moment at Newcastle United and why?
Best moment, signing the professional deal. It was a big deal for me, hometown club, and me and three other of the lads had a photo shoot with Sir Bobby at St James's. I've still got the photo upstairs. It was just an unbelievable moment. So yeah, signing a professional contract there.
Brilliant. But no, some great stories, great memories to look back on it as well. But honestly, thank you so much, Ross, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on. Some great stories and memories to go back over as well there.
Brilliant. Cheers, Rainey. Thanks for having us on, mate.
Excellent. And thank you again, everyone that's been watching throughout the night. Really appreciate the support as always. Back next week with 2 shows on the North East Non-League scene. Lots going on there at the moment. Can't see many games being played at the weekend. Looking out the window there, it's coming down quick. I think there's going to be a lot of games postponed in the North East Non-League scene over the weekend, but we'll see what happens with the storm what come. But again, everyone that's been watching, Ross, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night as well.
Brilliant, mate. See you there.